It's time to take a ride on the Steelers Afternoon Drive with our co-hosts Alan Saunders and Zachary Smith.
It is Alan Saunders, and welcome to another episode of Steelers Afternoon Drive. That is not Zachary Smith. Smitty's on vacation. Welcome, our dear friend, Noah Strackbein from Sports Illustrated. Noah, welcome back to the show. Thank you for joining us.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. The Zachary Smith, when it said our co-host Zachary Smith, I just thought we would just run with it for the whole show. That's what I was hoping happened, and we just didn't acknowledge it at all.
You're just gonna pretend. See if we replace Zachary Smith. Let's see if anyone notices.
I think that me and him and everybody at this point has heard this story way too many times. So we've spent enough time in an airport together one time 4 years ago that I think I can imitate Zach for the rest of my life. I think I could be Smitty forever.
I think you could. You could.
If I turn around a little bit, he shaved his head. Never mind. If I turn around, I look just like him. So it's crowded room. We're the same guy. We're shout out to Smitty. Hope he's doing well.
Yeah, he's enjoying life on vacation. He has turned off his Twitter account, but he still found time to comment on yesterday's episode. So he can't, even if he's trying to stay away, he just can't. He can't.
That's how. It's better to be in these YouTube comments than in Twitter. Any day of the week.
That's usually true. We appreciate our YouTube commenters. We got a great group. Today, obviously, we're going to talk about Aaron Rodgers. Goes on the Pat McAfee Show. Has a lot to say. First and foremost, that he is planning on this being his last season of NFL football. He said, pretty sure, which is a very curious way to announce your retirement, right? Like, pretty sure. Are you or aren't you? I don't know. What do you make of his phrasing there? Do you believe him? Like, if he goes out and plays well, is he really gonna not do it again?
No. I look at Aaron Rodgers as committing early because he doesn't know if anybody else is going to want him next year, and at that point he gets to retire on his own terms. That's what this is, and he'll know by the end of the season. Because if Aaron Rodgers is a mediocre quarterback in 2025, the Giants or the Jets or the Saints, one of these really bad teams, are going to be the only ones that call, and they're going to be like, hey, yeah, we guess you could come in and compete with whoever our first round pick is, and that's great. And he doesn't want to do that. So it's kind of like committing to the bit a little bit early. That's how I viewed it. But I think everything Aaron Rodgers says you have to take with a little bit of grain of salt and play it out. He also strategically left the door open there, and we know that. Like, he knew exactly what came out of his mouth. So I would say that the door is still there. And on top of that, let's say the Steelers make it to the AFC Championship game in some crazy world, and they lose by 3 points to Patrick Mahomes on some crazy kick. I would put my money on Aaron Rodgers being the Steelers quarterback in 2026 before I'd guess he's retired. So I think it's too early to tell, and I think even he knows that.
I do think it's pretty funny that it took him like 6 months to decide if he wanted to play this year. Yeah. But he has already decided way ahead of time that he doesn't want to play next year. Like, he's like, I thought it took me a really long time to decide this year. Next year, I've already decided about next year, though. Next year's a no.
The 2 years ago, too, like, he had to go on a whole darkness retreat to come up with, but we're ready. Like, I know one thing is for certain, and that's Aaron Rodgers has no idea what's going to happen in 2026. No clue.
Nobody does, really. I mean, I don't even think it's I guess some football, I feel like that's a more common thing. You see it in baseball, because guys can still be good for so long, like more guys will just be like, yeah, I've kind of had enough. Like, it doesn't matter how well I'm playing. I'll make one more lap around the track and I'm out of here. It's pretty uncommon to see a football player say before his last year, yep, this is it. I'm riding out here. Even Ben, like, we didn't know it was going to be his last game until like 2 weeks before his last game. Like, I can't really recall a lot of other players going down this road.
No, I mean, even Ben wouldn't admit it as it was happening. Like, I remember I still asked the question of, Ben, you were sitting in the tunnel and the cameras caught you. What were you doing? He's like, I thought I broke the rushing record or something. Like, cause that's what they do. That's what NFL players do almost all the time. I feel as if, okay, so I have two thoughts here. The first one is he was a little bit set up with the question. which I don't think he was prepared for, but I think he was a little bit set up with the question of like, hey, let's make this a retirement tour. And on the other side of that, I mean, his answer was fast. So he has definitely been thinking about it a little bit. I think that if you ask him week 1 of the season, he'll tell you something like, I'm just focused on right now. If you ask him in training camp, he'll say something like, I'm just focused on right now, just to kind of push back a little bit. I think in the moment, it might have got him. I think that's what happened.
Former Steelers offensive lineman Trey Essex wrote on Twitter, gonna be honest, not a fan of A-Rod announcing this could be his last season before camp even starts. With that mindset, how will he react when things get inevitably tough? Will he have the intestinal fortitude to fight and persevere, or will he be just like, man, a few more months left until it's over? Went on a little bit longer, but do you make it? Do you buy that at all? Do you feel like knowing it's your last season can impact someone's motivation?
Yes and no. You know, I look at it's kind of like are you driven to win your second Super Bowl question that he was asked on the first day of minicamp. He didn't say yes, but you know, he acknowledged that he wants the Steelers to win their 7th. And I think that's where it is, you know, Aaron didn't come back to play football and lose. You know, he came back, whether he is motivated to go win a Super Bowl, to make it the final year of his legacy or whatever it is. Aaron came back because he wants to win a Super Bowl like every other player on that field. Nobody just comes, hey, I can't wait to get beat up for 18 weeks. This sounds like a great time. Like, no, that's not why you're doing this. You're a competitor. That's why he's on the field. So while I think, yes, maybe, like, I also think that, you know, Avante Davis situation where it's like, all right, I'm done at halftime is so rare. Like, that's just not going to. Yeah, the AB piece, like that's like Aaron is not in that group, so I'm not like worried about it. I don't think that I fall for that. And I just think that the fact that he showed up at 41, he didn't show up because this is fun and games, he's going to play for whoever. No, if it was the Giants or retire, chances are higher that he's probably going to retire. So I think that he is a little bit motivated. I don't worry about that too much.
Yeah, I don't really worry about the motivation, and especially the way it was phrased, like when things get tough.
Yeah.
I don't see that being an issue for Aaron Rodgers. Now, like, could he get hurt and decide he doesn't want to do the rehab again? Yeah, I can see that. Like that,
yeah.
But that's the case for any older player. Him having Cam Hayward, tears his groin again. I could very easily Cam Hayward say, you know what? I proved I could do this once, but I really do not want to do it again.
No,
I'm out. That could happen. Nobody's talking about Cam Hayward not being motivated. So, like, I think there is something to some waning motivation. You've already won a Super Bowl. You're at the very end of your career. Whether you acknowledge it or not, you know you're near the end of your career. Sure, but I don't think him saying it out loud changes anything compared to him having the same thoughts internally. At least not for me. It does kind of give the Steelers some clarity about the situation ahead of time, which is nice. Omar Khan doesn't have to sit here and wonder what's happening at quarterback in 2026. Not that I think they were really thinking that Aaron Rodgers was going to be a future piece. It just does kind of make it a little bit simpler to know ahead of time. Hey, he said this is it, one and done. Okay, cool. We got this group for this year. Mason, Will Howard, you're back next year. We're going to draft a rookie. I mean, I feel like this is the most clarity we've had about the Steelers' future quarterback situation in a very long time.
Very long time, a very long time. And I mean, I think they are like his words on wanting to get Will Howard to be a guy. Like, I mean, for me, like that was everybody brings up the mentorship thing, and it's like, oh, Aaron Rodgers did this for Jordan Love, and it could happen for Will Howard, and blah blah blah. Like, all right, yeah, I get it, but like that happens for a lot of quarterbacks, and it doesn't work out. I don't know if I'm going to dive into that. Aaron saying it's an actual like challenge to himself that he wants to do it, to me was like, oh, that's like real. That's totally different than just him saying, I'm going to sit next to you in class, buddy. Let's have a good time. Like, circle that one. So I think it gives them not just clarity, but I mean, a little bit of hope for the future, because you don't have to, like, that was the thing that every year you're like, all right, you want to feel good about the Steelers quarterback room and they have some potential, but it's just going to be another veteran. Now it's okay. We're going to not only get Will to a place where maybe he's good enough to challenge a first round quarterback, which that's not my expectation for him, but maybe. And you're going to have a first round quarterback, most likely. And then you're going to have Mason Rudolph. That sounds way better than any other scenario they've had in years, Aaron Rodgers included. And I agree with you. I think he helped. Like, I think Omar was sitting there going, yeah, that's what I thought. You're done after this one.
Yeah. I love the mentorship discussion because it's like, yes, it did work for Jordan Love. It also didn't do anything for like Matt Flynn, Scott Colson, Tom Arth, Graham Harrell, all of the backup quarterbacks that were backups to Aaron Rodgers in Green Bay before Jordan Love, who was a first round pick and a very highly touted one who happened to fall to the Packers. His mentorship didn't do anything for any of the rest of those guys. So like, it's not like this the golden touch of Aaron Rodgers. I dubbed the starting quarterback. Like, will it help? Sure. Is it going to help make Will Howard be the best version of himself that he can be? Yeah, I think so. But like, how good that is a very, very large question still. I think some people are getting way ahead of themselves about how much that really, it's cool that he's willing to do it. And I think it's awesome for the team. And I think it really, to me, it shows it means more for the rest of the team than it does for Will Howard. Like, if Will Howard isn't any good, Aaron Rodgers' mentorship isn't going to matter. And if Will Howard is really good, Aaron Rodgers' mentorship isn't going to matter. And there's these like weird, like some right in the middle cases where like maybe he just helps him get a little bit over the hump from one to another. Okay, fine. But like, what it really says to me is this is a guy who really cares, who came here with like a whole bunch of give a damn. And it's so much so that I think every time Aaron Rodgers has spoken publicly since signing with the Steelers, he's brought up Will Howard. Like, okay, I don't care that much about Will Howard, but to me, that shows a guy that a lot of people were saying from the outside, he's going to be a big distraction, locker room cancer. Steelers are falling all over this guy. He's junk. He's going to wreck the team like he did with the Jets. This is like the opposite of that, right?
Yes. No, I agree. I've been using the word fired up for hours now. Like, Steelers fans should be fired up after this one because that's what I've gotten from Aaron Rodgers. I went into this and I probably said it to you, but I've said it to everybody that what I am most excited about through this journey is getting to understand who Aaron Rodgers is, because coming into it, the 3 months that we had to just sit there and speculate about him, and don't get me wrong, the 15-minute interview that we got with him is not enough for me to say I know the guy, but the speculation was so wild. Like, I've never experienced something like that before. And I was just looking at it with curiosity going, I want to know who Aaron Rodgers truly is. And I won't lie to you, first impressions are totally different from what I imagined. He is, by all accounts, team guy, team first guy who's just in here to win a Super Bowl with the Pittsburgh Steelers, not for himself and the Pittsburgh Steelers. He wants it to be number 7, not number 2. I think that's significant. So fired up's the word. Like, this is the first time, honestly, like even the Russ stuff, like Russ was a great teammate. Russ was a great leader. Like, he always knew what to say. Aaron is so genuine with some of this stuff that there's no like, this seems scripted, or, I'm going to name every guy. Like, him giving a detailed situation of a pass from Will Howard to Darnell Washington. So everybody sat there and like, you should have went like that. Like, that was one play in 45 of them that you watched in that one practice, and it stood out to you and you remember it. Like, it's different. Like, fired up is the word I've been using, but I just think that Aaron is kind of lit a spark of this team atmosphere that it honestly hasn't been there in a long time. Like, since Ben, and even near the end of Ben, because like everything was transitioning so much. I don't think the Steelers have had like a centered team that's as strong as we see right now with Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah. I think he's been great for the team. I mean, the older guys, I always felt like they just want to win. And like, I don't think they care if he came in and was a jerk. I think that'd have been fine with it. But I think when you see the attention he's paying to guys down the depth chart, I think that's where you get like all the way buy-in. Like, when he's out there comparing Darnell Washington to Mercedes Lewis and like hyping him up, it feels more real than Russell Wilson rattling off the names down the depth chart of guys he just met. Like, it feels like it means something. And nobody ever accused Russ of being a bad guy, and he's not. But I do think that it is like if you were a Steelers player who spent the last 3 months scrolling through your phone being like, what the heck is this guy doing? Like, is he coming? Is he not coming? I've been here since February. Like, what's going on? I think if you're in that situation, you see how he acts, and you're like, oh, I like this guy. It's great.
Yeah. Yeah. That's exactly it. Like, if he didn't show up on Pat McAfee and it didn't take 3 months and reports didn't come out that the Steelers and him spoke until the end of April, we wouldn't even care. Like, it'd just be like, oh,
have Ed Thompson paparazzi shots of him in a rented Chevy Malibu,
which is still to this day the most underappreciated photo to be shared on the internet. Let me tell you, that is how that didn't blow up.
I made it our header image on Twitter.
It's fantastic. It should be like, that is how I didn't even know about it until I was with Ed and he was like, oh, I took this photo and sent it to me. And or maybe you sent it to me, somebody. And I was like, how did this should have been on TMZ. This should have been everywhere. Most underappreciated photo ever. But if that didn't happen, if we didn't know anything about Aaron Rodgers and the Steelers until then, you'd just be looking at him going, this dude's he's a high character teammate. That's what he is. And 3 months changes that. Obviously, they got to act like that's real, but I don't know. I'm much less like worried about Rodgers and his personality than I was 3 months before this.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree with all of that, actually. For sure. Anything else on Aaron from Pat McAfee that sparked your interest today?
I'll give you a negative, which kind of stinks, and I don't want to do this, but I'm gonna. It felt like not one mention of Calvin Austin. And to me, like, I'm not saying Calvin's going to be the guy of number 2, but I'm saying that there's a lot of conversation right now about if he could be and how good he looks and all these things. And to me, it kind of sounded like Aaron, and I'm just making a joke here, but it kind of sounded like Aaron talking about the guys that he doesn't really know their names. That was Calvin. He was like, hey, pal, good catch, buddy. Like, are you a rookie? Not a rookie? Okay, I have no idea who you are. Like, that's kind of what it felt like. Yeah. Like, yeah, you just here for the day. You should I learn your name? That's what I got. So that would be I watched that whole thing and I was like, Connor Hayward got a shout out, Darnell got a shout out, like Pat got 5 minutes, DK Metcalf. I'm shocked that he wasn't in the room when Rodgers actually signed the deal. Like, that's how close I thought those two are at this point. No mention of Calvin Austin.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really buy Calvin Austin as a legitimate wide receiver 2 this year. I think he can be a really big part of a really good receivers room. I just think he's limited in what you can ask him to do because of his size. And I don't think there are very many people who you can say that about, that you also say, I'm comfortable with that person being like a wide receiver 2 in the offense. I think he can be a really good slot. I think he can be a high volume. I think, like, I'm buying the over on the Calvin Austin receiving yards.
Oh, yeah.
I think it's not realistic to put him in a situation. It's not fair to him either, because you're not putting him in a situation where he's going to succeed. I expect him to try very hard to add to this room. And this is a wonderful segue because we have a question here from Neo Video Retro. Yeah. He says, hey, Alan, what am I missing about the Steelers seemingly having no interest in signing Amari Cooper? He has the reputation of being a great route runner. He has size. He can play outside. Is he radioactive or something? I appreciate the phrasing of this question. What say you? Is Amari Cooper radioactive?
I don't know about radioactive, but I don't think he's the guy that he feels like the old man who might be carrying the bottle of radioactive juice. That's where we're at this point. You don't really want to hang out with that guy. That's not who you're looking to be friends with right now. And the Steelers, I just don't think they're interested in that. I agree with you. I think that they're going to try very hard. I think they are currently, people are going on vacations now, but I think they made some early phone calls and they're going to circle back to that near or during training camp. But I don't know if Amari Cooper is on the list right now. Could he enter the conversation? For sure. August rolls around. Steelers are having no luck. Nobody's getting injured. No names are popping up on the trade block. It's for some reason a really slim market. maybe they call Amari Cooper. But until then, like Amari Cooper, Keenan Allen, those veterans that are still out there in free agency, I think they stay there until just before week 1. And if the Steelers don't have somebody else, I think that's when they make a phone call. But right now, I would say not radioactive, but they're not walking in the lab. They're not going to check it out yet.
It's like not definitely radioactive, but it might be.
Yeah.
And you don't want to mess with that unless you have to, right?
Yes.
Like he leaves Cleveland in the middle of the season last year, goes to Buffalo, and I'm thinking, oh man, that guy's going to be great there. Like they don't have anyone like him. Cleveland was just such a train wreck that you sort of forgive whatever happens in those games with the Browns. And then he plays 8 games in Buffalo and gets 297 receiving yards.
Yeah.
And I don't know what to make of that. I don't know how you can see that and not think, oh, the guy's just washed up. I mean, I know he had a wrist injury last year. He definitely had some drop issues that hadn't really been that big of a problem throughout his career that really spiked last year, according to Pro Football Reference, a 14.1% drop rate. But, I mean, it just looked like a guy who doesn't have it. And now, like, I think there is a world where he would still provide some kind of upgrade. Like, I think he's probably better than Robert Woods.
Yeah.
But, like, I'm with you. I don't see a reason to make that move now. You try to trade for somebody, you go into training camp, and look, maybe Grumman Wilson was a 3rd-round pick. I'm not saying this is going to happen, but maybe he goes out there and he's the best player at training camp. And then all of a sudden you're taken care of. You don't need to worry about it. And so I just think there isn't a rush. The fans are always in a rush. I don't think Omar's ever in a rush. No. We should know at this point, in fact, when you consider last offseason with Ayuk and this offseason with Aaron Rodgers, Omar Khan is never in a rush.
Yeah, most patient guy alive.
For sure.
Yeah.
But like I don't even see what the advantage would be to rushing. Leave yourself open to go make a trade. If you can't make a trade, whoever's going to be available on August 27th is not going to be appreciably worse than 207 yards over 8 games. I'm sure.
I agree. That's like we don't even know who's available yet. The Steelers don't know who's available. It's June 24th. There's not enough time between now, or there's too much time between now and the season for teams to even. I'm going to talk. Cordero Patterson is still on the roster of the Pittsburgh Steelers. Okay. There is almost a 0% part of me that thinks that will be the case come September 8th or whatever the first game is. And there are going to be so many Cordero Pattersons who are 28 instead of 32 who play wide receiver. There will be other options. And I think you jump in the gun. Like, I think if the Steelers went out and got an Amari Cooper right now, you're spot on with Robert Woods. Like, they have him. He's Robert Woods. And maybe he doesn't even make the team. Maybe they have no need for him. But you don't even know that yet. You're not going to know that until the first week of August, second week of August. And at that point, maybe the Houston Texans have 40 wide receivers and they have to get rid of them. Maybe Terry McLaurin really is at the end of the line with Washington. Maybe somebody in San Francisco's available again, because that just seems to be a revolving door. Like it's if you do it now, everybody's going to be upset that the guy who became available, the Chris Olave, because the Saints realized, maybe we should make a move.
Or he
somebody's going to realize at some point and say, this isn't working out long term.
I can see Chris Olave getting to the second week of training camp and be like,
second week? I'm shocked we're here.
What's going on here? Like, well, I can't be part of this.
Somebody, like, there's no chance that people are sitting. I don't know how the Saints facility set up, but I just picture some balcony and the high ups, the people who make the phone calls, are sitting up there going, look at guys, I have a lot of faith in Spence and Tyler Shuck, and maybe they turn out to be great, but we might need to gear up for a quarterback next year. And you want to know how you do that? You trade Chris Olave to the Steelers. That's what you do. So I think if you made a move now, the guys that become available in late August, you're just going to be upset that you didn't get an opportunity at them, and now you're kind of backtracking. That's how I view it.
Yeah, I agree with all that. I do think there will be some kind of addition, and I think, like you said, like nobody's available right now. The whole reason for the conversation jetting to tight end briefly is just a well, who could we get kind of thought process, right? It's like, well, nobody's out there. Well, who is out there? Well, Jonnu Smith's out there. Could we make that work? Could Kyle Pitts work? I don't know. These are things to explore that are not good ideas, but that may be better than doing nothing if you get to the end of the day and you're at nothing. But I don't think any of that's imminent. The other thing that I think stemmed from one of those conversations was some perhaps Steelers' interest in Jalen Ramsey. I talked a lot about this morning, but Adam Schefter said does not look like he's coming to Pittsburgh. To me, this was like, duh. But what are your thoughts on old Sheffy putting this one to bed?
Look, I'm going to be honest with you. I don't think I'm putting it to bed yet. I think
you're holding out.
I think I'm holding out a little. Do I think it's going to happen? No, but I don't think it's very unlikely. I would just say unlikely. But I think the fact that they made a phone call, this isn't a Jonnu Smith, this isn't is Kyle Pitts available? Probably not, but we're going to call anyways. Like it's not any of the guys that have been reported. Jalen Ramsey's you're only calling to be like, what's the price? Now, maybe that price stinks, but the reason I'm not putting it to bed is because I think the one certainty out of all of this right now is that Jalen Ramsey is not going to be a Dolphin in 2025. And do you feel different?
I don't understand it. I don't feel different, but I've never seen an NFL player this good get traded. And neither side appear to have any explanation as to why. They both seem to be perfectly okay with trading it.
Yeah, they're just like, I think it should end, and both of them went, yeah, that sounds really good. And there's not a cap hit. Like you're not $16 million is not great, but that's not terrible for a corner.
No, he's a little expensive. I said this morning, he's a little expensive for a 30-year-old corner. He's 25 million a year going forward. That's a lot of money.
Yeah, but nothing's guaranteed after the season, right?
Not every team can take that on.
I agree.
So I think that's part of the reason that the trade process hasn't. I think that's the whole issue with the Rams. I don't think the Rams can afford him, unless he's willing to redo his deal or Miami's willing to eat some money. And now they're sitting here staring at each other. But
I agree.
I just don't understand. I don't understand the whole concept of why he's being traded. And then Tyreek Hill, after himself for months saying that he wants to leave the Dolphins, gets up on stage over the weekend and says, I'm going to lobby to keep Jalen Ramsey.
Tyreek Hill left. Didn't he leave the last game of the Dolphins and say, like, yeah, I'm pretty sure this is my last game or something?
I'm out.
And then it was over. I'll say like that's my outlook on it is I don't know. And maybe it turns into Tyreek, but for some reason, there is almost no noise around this of teams outside of the Rams making phone calls. And again, like if August rolls around and teams are not calling the Dolphins and Omar Khan, who we've seen it happen before, gets on the phone and goes, you want a 5th round pick for him? All right, sounds good. Here's a 5th round pick. Like, I'm not saying that's likely, but if Omar wouldn't say no to that, he wouldn't be like, nah, we're good. We got Beanie Bishop, dude. We're fine. Like, no, he'd trade for Jalen Ramsey if it was super cheap.
I think a 5th rounder is going to eventually get it done.
I do too. That's what I'm saying. But I don't know who's going to do it.
But I also have a hard time seeing him being worth the most to the Steelers. When you look around at the other depth charts at cornerback, like there's a lot worse than Slay and Porter and Beanie out there. Where like there's some teams that are like, Jalen Ramsey's the best corner we've had in 7 seasons. Like, let's get him. Yeah. There's not a lot of good, which makes the whole fact that he's being traded all the more mystifying. No idea what the Dolphins are.
Look at they see a lot. They see a lot in Artie Burns. That's at the end of the day. That's what
start. And then they don't even sign Alexander. I don't.
They don't need to. Artie Burns. That's what it is.
We got a great question yesterday that I decided I'm going to repurpose every day this week. Because it was too good to only ask once, and I can ask it again. But the question yesterday was that an Alan Saunders and Chris Carter beef that was staged, but beef would feed the offseason. That's what the offseason needs. So I'll say, if you and I are having a beef, what are we beefing about?
Oh, what a great question. What are we beefing about? I think there's probably a couple of conversations that we could have. Italian food could be one of them for sure. Could definitely be one of them. Oh man, I think you like a lot of conversations that we would have when my mind always goes food and beer. I don't know why, but I would just like automatically trust your opinion. Like you'd be like, oh yeah, dude, Northeast Louisiana in this small town of Hickabee has the best sausage of all time. I'd be like, yeah, I'd be telling my wife, dude. I'd be telling my father-in-law. So I'd be like, yo, dude, did you hear that this town of Hickabee sausage? Unbelievable down there. Man, that's a tough one. Something Italian, most likely, to be honest with you. That's probably my guess. Besides that, I don't know. What was yours and Chris's? Just to get the juices flowing here.
Chris said pizza, and I said pizza's a good thing. You get me fired about pizza easily. So that's poking the bear for sure. And then I said I don't like comic book movies. So like Chris is big into the Marvel stuff. So I knew that could I could get him going with that. I do not know what we would beef about. I really don't.
This is a good
You're
question.
You're not a beef guy, really.
I think that's the hardest part is like, I don't think I have beef. I don't even know what beef is, you know, like if you meet me in real life, I'm just like, yo, no, you should try this. I'm like, all right, cool. I got nothing else going on. Like, sounds good to me. You know, that would be so hard. I would have pizza's a good one. Cause I don't think you're a Rockaway guy. I don't think you're.
No,
I
am.
Oh, that's what I'm saying. Like, I don't think we have a beef.
Yeah,
I don't think we have a beef.
I don't think we have. I think that's the right answer. We'll keep this going the rest of the week. We've got Brooke Pryor on tomorrow and Mike DeFabo on Thursday. So we'll see who has the best beef with me. I love the question. I just had to keep it going because it was too good. That is it. We got 30 minutes in. Thanks so much for coming on, Noah. Let the people know where they can find your stuff.
Yes, sir. You guys can find all my written work at si.com/NFL/Steelers. And then you can catch the podcast every day at youtube.com/all Steelers talk. And sometimes on here whenever, Alan has me back on.
And of course, you can find me @Saunders_PGH on X, Instagram, TikTok, and Blue Sky. PGH Steelers Now, the site's account, SteelersNow.com. Go there, read the words so I can get paid. Sign up for SN Plus, which is better. You get no ads. You get all the best content and exclusive live streams with me, DB, and Smitty. There's a bunch of you who have signed up, and I have not updated the little scrolling shout out at the bottom because Smitty's on vacation and I don't know how to do it. So we'll catch up. I promise. If you signed up recently, your shout out is coming as soon as Smitty gets back from vacation. I'll make sure that's taken care of. It's definitely all me. And of course, anyone can subscribe here to the YouTube channel, hit that bell. And we got 15,949 subscribers. Smitty and I play a game. We name a Steeler with the last two digits. 49 is a wasteland. What
was Cam Cannaday's number? It wasn't 49. It's 40 something
57, I think.
Oh, he was 57. It's not a bad number. 49 is a terrible number.
I'm going way back to Dwayne Woodruff, cornerback from the early 90s, who after his Steelers playing career became a judge. He is a Court of Common Pleas judge in Allegheny County. Dwayne Woodruff. There you go.
Nice.
That's my 49.
Can I toss one in there? You care?
Sure. Yeah.
Cassius, play cards, fight the Bears, or fight the Steelers with the Bears marsh. Shout out to Cassius Marsh.
That's a good one. That's a good one.
Yeah. Somebody told me one time when I had the man bun that I was in a bar. He was also in a bar. Somebody looked at me and said, "Yo, dude, you kind of look like that guy." And I said, "No, I don't. He plays for the Steelers. I don't look like him at all." Like, thanks though. Appreciate it. He's half my height, double my height. Yeah. Yeah. Shout out Cassius Marsh.
Good stuff. Thanks. Thanks for coming on. No, we appreciate you. And until next time, everyone, thanks for listening. Thanks for watching and enjoy.